My name is Pawe Buhlebatando Kumkani Bula, and I'm the CEO and a co-founder of TAQA. TAQA is a digital library of illustrative children's audiobooks in all 11 official South African languages. We believe in the power of storytelling to change the world and change the lives of children.
Thank you so much for joining us, Pawe. We're glad that you could be here and give us some feedback on your progress. What has that journey been like, and what are some of the key highlights of your experience to this point?
So where we currently are is in the development of our prototype, and hopefully to soon then start running a pilot project with the prototype itself. So the journey since UCT GSB, during the time in the program, we're able to raise a bit of funds and with that start developing a prototype. But alongside that, as a kind of way to test the market, we're also able to launch a podcast of children's stories. So it's not the podcast, different podcast in the app. The podcast doesn't yet have the illustrative part of the children's stories, but you can still listen to the stories. So they're just in audiobook format in 7 of the South African languages through a partnership with Unali Bali, which I think for us has probably been the biggest highlight thus far, to actually, even before sort of being able to raise any kind of funds, but start adding the kind of value we want to add, even if not in its final format, and just starting to sort of test how children and how the market receive it. So that's been really fun for us. So yeah, at this stage, we're developing the prototype. I'm still raising funds to be able to develop the full app, which hopefully the prototype will help towards. And I guess another highlight has been, we've done a lot of pitching here and there, and there's been a lot of fun involved with that. But I think a highlight was the InterVarsity competition last year. And just sort of progressing through that. There was a lot of people we met in that, and that was a lot of fun. So I guess the 2 highlights have been the podcast with Unali Bali, which is a chance to actually start doing the work we want to do, which is really exciting. And then also just the InterVarsity competition was also a lot of fun.
And in terms of some of the more rewarding moments of this process, you spoke about you're in the process of developing the app and all that. Tell us a little bit about something that you found surprising or rewarding about this, growth process that you're in right now.
I think a really fun, rewarding moment was, so we've been running the podcast since late last year, I think about October last year. And a really fun moment was we had always envisioned the podcast, given that it's children's stories, to be a tool used by children. And there was actually a comment on one of the stories by an adult saying they had been using it to learn isiZulu, or to help learn some of the African languages, which was an interesting use for the product that we had not yet envisioned. So that was quite rewarding and fun to find that outside of who we had targeted, there were people finding value for uses that had not really come into our thought space yet. So that was a pretty cool discovery. And I think just another, I guess, really rewarding thing has been, I guess, the kind of novelty, not novelty in the sense of the idea itself, but in the, I guess, opportunity to be with people you believe in and try build something and have like literally no idea where you're going every day. And it's really exciting, but terrifying at the same time. But when you do get something right and you do stumble onto maybe the podcast or do manage to raise a bit of funds, and it's you're sort of surprised every day about, okay, this seems like it's something you want to do, but at the same time it always feels like, can we really do this? And then you find yourself doing things and things happening, and it's really weird, but it's really exciting when something concrete happens. It brings a lot of joy to see parts of the vision coming to life, and motivates you, I guess, to keep trying to do ordinary things, which will hopefully help you achieve extraordinary dreams. So I guess, that's my answer.
And then in terms of, some challenges that you may have faced in the process, tell us a little bit about that. If there have been moments where you found it challenging or difficult to, do the work that you're doing.
Okay. It has been, I guess, the most challenging thing for us has always been sort of knowing what to do or where to go next to be able to build sort of what we're trying to build, right? And initially, before we pivoted to our current business model, that of the children's audiobooks, our initial idea was around translation software, and we were trying to build a translation software to be able to seamlessly translate from African languages into English and other languages, and the other way around. So we faced a lot of challenges. Number one, with know-how, just the kind of technical ability to build a translation software, and then also trying to find the right kind of people to join, because we didn't really have funds to pay people to develop for us. And we ourselves on our team of 4 co-founders, we don't have a programmer. So we struggled for a long time trying to figure that out before we pivoted into this business model, which does still require some development, but I think it's less. We found it to be easier to pitch and a business easier to sell, but that still allows us an entry point into the market we're moving into. And so we were able to move easier than we were before. But yeah, I think the greatest difficulty always for us really is knowing what the next step is to be able to build this app. So which door to knock on, who to speak to be able to develop this app, to be able to get content onto the app, which is what we're currently busy with, sort of striking deals with publishers and authors to get content onto the digital library. So it's just always, I think, knowing which doors to knock on, how to reach the people behind those doors. Sometimes you send the email, you make a couple of calls, and you're not getting any responses. And you know that if you actually had a conversation with them, they would likely be down for what you're saying, but it's hard to get to the point of having that conversation. So yeah, I think where to go, how to reach people behind the doors has been really, really tricky. And just finding some expertise in terms of developing the more technical parts of things. And we later decided not to, for instance, add an actual member who's going to be a tech person, but try to sort of outsource the skill, which does rely on funds, but likely we've been able to raise a little bit now, which can keep us going for the prototype at least.
Is there anything that you've experienced so far that you can think of that you can say that the eTAQ program prepared me for this or positioned me for this specific moment?
I think largely it was understanding where I think the best work or the things that excited me the most were understanding the sort of overall market around literature. And I guess the earlier point I was speaking to of knowing which doors to knock on and who to speak to and how to get to those people. I think through a lot of the work we did while as part of the GSB program, we're able to find some really important partners in the space who then have themselves been able to link us to other people. So I think just finding, for instance, the partnership with Unali Bali was really important for us. And finding just other individuals who work within publishing was really important and have helped us to be able to speak to the right people. So I think probably the most important for us has one, being able to find the right kind of stakeholders in the industry and people making the kind of content we're trying to use. And then also I think being able to do some of the maths or the mathematical case behind our business outside of the kind of story which we've always had. The GSB program has really helped in building that case, which I think has been helpful in a lot of the pitches that we've done while on the program and since then. So I think those two things, just understanding the overall field and therefore the helpful being able to find some of the important stakeholders, and then also just being able to build the mathematical case behind what we're doing. And I think that's also just helped us believe in what we're doing a lot more and see the vision instead of just sort of believing it, but not being able to see it, if this makes sense.
Yeah. What is some valuable advice that you would like to give future eTAQ cohort members?
I think just advice number one is probably pay attention to the people on the program with you. Yeah. Because there's a lot of really cool connections we made with the people on the program with you. Yeah. And some of the people that come on to mentor and you can speak to them afterwards. So I think one, just pay attention to the community and sort of try to contact them. And then I think two, in addition to sort of all the skills you're learning about building the business and pitching, etc., I think another really important lesson that I advise other founders to do is just to, while you're trying to raise funds, while you're trying to build this and that, always try to think, what version of your value proposition are you able to offer to the people right now as a means to kind of test that they might be able, or how they would receive the final version. So for us, we've spent a long time sort of hung up on the idea of fundraising, which is really important. We still are consistently trying to fundraise.
Yeah.
But I think when we're able to sort of think, okay, maybe without being able to build an app, we could start a podcast. And in that sense, be able to offer a version of what we're trying to do to the people we're trying to offer it to and see how it's received. So I think always also try, while you're trying all the other things, because they are very important, but try to see what kind of scaled down version of what you're trying to build you can sort of put out there and see how people respond to it.
Awesome. That is some really great advice. And thanks again for giving us feedback and an update on where you guys are at the moment. And, you know, we at the Solution Space wish you the best of luck in continuing your venture building process, and keep us in the loop in terms of when you are, you know, launching your app and all of that.
We shall do so, and thank you so much from our side as well for all the time and expertise and resources invested in us. We shall stay in the loop. Thanks.